a show, the first thing, instead of talking about my strength, which is exactly that, and dealing with people so we become a rich country again, every time I go on, they start talking about the Bertha issue. And interestingly, I just watched David Axelrod on television, and he almost wasn't blaming me. He said, you know, it's not just Trump. The press kept asking the question, and that's why it came to the forefront.
I saw that, Mr. Trump, and you know what? He brought up another issue that I would love to talk to you about. Well, as it turned out, Trump said that he couldn't stay over the break, but I did get him to respond to those allegations of racism, and you'll hear the rest of that right after the break. And also, we want to tell you the breaking news here on CNN. We're awaiting the president. President Barack Obama expected to make a statement at any moment regarding national security. It could happen as early as 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. We'll carry it for you live on CNN. More of our breaking news after the break.
Communities are built by everyone doing their part. This year, J.P. Morgan Chase increased its lending commitment to small businesses to $12 billion. And we're raising billions more for local services to help hospitals expand and schools grow. Investing in the places we all call home. This is the way forward.
Inspired engineering. Motivated by performance. Technicians as advanced as the vehicles they service. And now get all of this expertise at a price that may surprise you. Like our 30-day tire price match guarantee, plus a $60 mail-in rebate. Not just service, certified service. Only at your Chevrolet, Buick, GMC, and Cadillac dealer.
If you go out of your way to fly with an airline, does that airline go out of its way to reward you? It should, because loyalty is a two-way street. And when one side gives, the other has to give back. Dedicated Redcoat customer service, or first-class upgrades, miles that don't expire. This isn't benevolence. This is our business. And the next time an airline asks for yours, ask them first what they've done to deserve it.
40 years ago, he wasn't worried about retirement. He'd yet to hear of mutual funds, IRAs, or annuities. Back then, he had something more important to do. He wasn't focused on his future. But fortunately, somebody else was. At USAA, we provide retirement solutions for our military, veterans, and their families. From investments to life insurance to healthcare options. Learn more at usaa.com/retirement or call 877-242-USAA.
It's Red Lobster's Festival of Shrimp for just $11.99. Combine two of our most tempting shrimp selections any way you like. From favorites like crab stuffed shrimp to special new creations like barbecue glazed shrimp or potato crusted shrimp. Create your own combination with unlimited Cheddar Bay biscuits, all for just $11.99 during the Festival of Shrimp. Get more of the shrimp you love in more irresistible new ways. For a limited time at Red Lobster.
This is CNN Breaking News.
And the breaking news here on CNN tonight, we're awaiting President Obama to speak soon. We're told he's going to do it as early as the bottom of the hour, 10:30 p.m. Eastern time, and that his address will be about national security. I want to bring in my colleague now in Washington, CNN's Wolf Blitzer. He's been working his sources. Wolf, though, very unusual at 10:30 p.m. Eastern on a Saturday night for the president to come out.
This is an extraordinary development. I must say, Don, I've covered Washington, as you know, for a long time. For the president, for the White House to make an announcement that the president will address the nation, indeed the world, in the coming minutes, and make a very important announcement. It's extraordinary what's going on. I'm told by sources it is a national security issue. It is not, repeat, not an issue involving Libya. It's an issue involving another important part of the world, critically important for the United States, given the fact that it would justify the president alerting all of us personally at this moment. It's not going to be a White House press secretary. It's not going to be a senior administration official. It's going to be the president addressing the nation from the East Room at the White House. We can only speculate on what that might be. I have my own gut instincts on what it might be, but I'll wait to hear from the president unless sources come forward and tell me in advance. Originally, it was going to be as early as 10:30, which would be in 2 minutes or so from now, but it could be pushed back a little bit, maybe closer to 10:40 p.m., 10:45 p.m. Eastern, I'm now told. They're getting ready. They're getting all their ducks in a row right now to alert the world to a major national security development, one that justifies the President of the United States coming forward and speaking to the nation. Our senior White House correspondent, Ed Henry, is standing by as well. I don't know if you have more information, Ed. What are you learning?
Well, Wolf, I just spoke to a senior administration official who basically said, I cannot get specific about the topic, but when I asked, tell me more, the person basically said, just come in. As you said, on a Sunday night, for the President of the United States to make some sort of a statement that is unexpected, that is last minute, that is unplanned, is extraordinary. It tells you that it is something of an extremely high magnitude. I don't want to speculate. This senior administration official would not speculate, but did then add that it was national security related, as you just reported, Wolf. So obviously we don't want to speculate on the range of possibilities, but it's clearly something of an extremely important matter for the President to get involved this late on a Sunday night, Wolf.
Yeah, I've been told now by 2 sources at the White House. It certainly justifies all of the major news organizations gearing up for what will be a dramatic announcement by the President of the United States. Like you, I was home, you were home. We both came in to get to work, to work our sources, to find out what's going on. We'll know soon enough, probably within the next 15 minutes or so, what is going on, but it certainly justifies our coming in. It justifies people standing by and hearing what's going on right now. Don Lemon is watching all of this. I don't know if you're getting more information, Don, but I can tell you, as someone who's covered Washington for a very long time, I think all of us should stay tuned and get ready for a dramatic announcement from the President.
And Wolf, I agree with you 100%. And you said that you had been checking with your sources and you had your idea about what you think it is. We're not going to speculate about it, but you said it's not going to be, you know, a spokesperson for the President. It is indeed going to be the President. Some indication about what it might be about. We know it's national security. Is who's going to be in the room with him? Do we know that? Do we know if he's alone? Is he coming with some sort of general, the Secretary of Defense, a Secretary of State? Do we know anything like that?
The only thing I know is that senior officials are at the White House right now. I assume the President will not be alone. I don't know that for sure. I do know it is not, and there's been a lot of speculation since this announcement was made that the President will address the nation at 10:30 p.m., which is now 10:30 p.m. It's slipping a little bit, maybe closer, as I said, to 10:45 p.m. The only thing I know for sure, it is not something involving Libya, as has been widely speculated over the past 45 minutes or so on other news organizations. Maybe it involves Muammar Gaddafi. As you know, his son, his youngest son, was reported killed yesterday in an airstrike. 3 grandchildren were killed. A lot of speculation. Well, what about Gaddafi? I'm told definitively it is not anything to deal with Libya, not anything to deal with Gaddafi. It's something else. Now, what that could be, whether it involves something elsewhere in the Middle East, whether it involves something in another part of the world, remains unclear. And as I say, I have my suspicions. I suspect I know what's going on, but I don't want to speculate at this point until I'm 100% sure, because it certainly is not something we want to do. So we'll know soon enough, probably within the next 10 or 15 minutes, once the President makes this dramatic announcement. And there are pool cameras, network pool cameras now in the East Room of the White House. They're getting ready for this statement from the President, Don.
And Wolf, it would sort of indicate that you're probably correct about that, because when this strike hit Muammar Gaddafi's son and 3 of his grandchildren, the White House said they were letting NATO take the lead on that. So if it's indeed about Libya, one would think that the President would let NATO take the lead on this one as well. So it seems to indicate that you might be correct.
It's not anything to do with Libya, and you're absolutely right, Don. If it were a fact, let's say, confirmation of Gaddafi, something happening to Gaddafi, NATO would take the lead. This is a NATO-led operation. I don't think the President of the United States would alert the world at this hour on a Sunday night of what's going on. And it's only been a handful of times that I recall when a president has done something like this, alerted the White House press office, alerting all the television networks, all the major news organizations, get ready. I've been emailing with senior White House officials trying to find out what's going on. They all basically say the same thing: stay tuned. This is big. You'll hear it directly from the president. We're not going to upstage the president of the United States. The president has an important announcement to make to the world, not only to the United States, but to the world. And we'll see what it is soon enough. So I think at this point, let's see what it is and let the president address the nation. It's going to happen very, very soon.
And Wolf, I did see a picture in our preview monitor here of the East Room as reporters and producers and camera people were getting ready for the president's speech. And we've got the live picture of the White House. But again, they are getting ready in the East Room, as Wolf Blitzer said, and it should happen. At first, we heard as early as 10:30, and Wolf is saying probably push back to about 10:45. Also, our Ed Henry, who's our chief White House correspondent, is available as well. And Wolf, as you know, the worldwide resources of CNN, we've got everyone on top of this, and we're going to carry it live. But again, I'd have to say, Ed, you're sitting here listening to Wolf and I, and it is unusual. Wolf says he can only remember just a few times that this has happened in history since he's been covering politics.
No, absolutely, Don. I mean, on a Sunday evening, and in fact, there is something called a lid, where the traveling press corps with the president at the pool, he had been out playing golf early this morning, and then they called a lid, meaning he was not going to do any more movements, not make any speeches, no statements. Basically, the press corps could go home because he was going to stay in the White House and not do anything tonight. All of a sudden, a couple of hours ago, that travel pool was called back from home and said, get into the White House as soon as you can. The president's making a statement as early as 10:30 p.m. Eastern time here on a Sunday evening. To say that this is dramatic would be a big, big understatement. And again, I spoke to a senior administration official as I was trying to sort this out and rushing over here to the White House, and this official just said, just get in.
Yeah. Listen, I want to update our viewers. Our Wolf Blitzer is there. He's getting information. You could see him, and he's on his computer on his BlackBerry. He has been working his sources, and I want to welcome our viewers from around the world, our international viewers as well. The breaking news here on CNN tonight. On CNN tonight is that President Barack Obama, the U.S. president, will make a statement very shortly. That statement will be about national security. As we look at live pictures of the White House now, the president, according to our Wolf Blitzer, will do that in the East Room, where they're setting up for that live statement now. Wolf Blitzer joins us, as well as Ed Henry. Wolf, I'm not sure if you have any information. I see you're working your sources there. What do you know so far?
Well, I'm just been told by a senior White House official that we at CNN have been very responsible in our reporting so far, and they deeply appreciate the restraint that we have, that we're showing right now, that we're not speculating. Other news organizations are wildly speculating right now. We do know, and I just want to repeat for our international viewers who are joining us right now, not only here in the United States, but around the world, this is what we know. About an hour or so ago, the president's White House press secretary informed the major news organizations, the television networks, the cable networks, that the president would make a statement to the nation, indeed to the world, at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. It's now 10:36 p.m. Eastern. I've been told a little while ago this statement will probably slip till around 10:45 p.m. Eastern. The president will go into the East Room of the White House, and he will then make his announcement. He will make his statement. We're told, A, it will be a statement involving national security, not domestic matters, not economic issues. It will be a statement involving national security. I am also told privately by White House officials it will not. Repeat, not be anything involving Libya. There had been wild speculation over the past hour or so that the president was calling this statement, was making this statement in order to make some sort of announcement about Muammar Gaddafi or Libya. That is not in the cards right now. It is something involving another critically important part of the world to the United States, something that would justify not a senior administration official, not a White House press secretary, not a State Department official or a Pentagon official making some sort of statement, releasing a written document, but it is something that important that the President of the United States on a Sunday evening, late Sunday evening here on the East Coast of the United States, is going to go into the East Room of the White House and address the nation and indeed address the world. So I don't think we can overemphasize how significant this statement is about to be, Don. This is a statement that will be very important, and I assume we'll be digesting it for some time as we hear from the President of the United States. As I say, I have my own suspicions on what the President is going to announce, probably something we've been looking forward to, at least from the U.S. perspective, for quite a while. But we'll soon find out. Let's not get carried away. We'll soon find out from the president himself. Once we know for sure what the announcement is, our viewers will know at the same time we know. If we get it earlier, we'll of course let them what we suspect the president will say. If we have it definitively, as I say, we're not going to just speculate. We're not just going to guess. One source on a story like this, Don, is not enough. You need multiple sources in order to go with it, and we'll wait and we'll see. The world will know very, very soon. Yeah,
Wolf, thank you for that. And stand by, Wolf Blitzer. Again, let's update our viewers here. You're watching breaking news on CNN. I'm Don Lemon at the CNN World Headquarters in Atlanta. I want to welcome our international viewers, our viewers from around the world. We've gotten word from a White House official that the U.S. President Barack Obama is to make a statement very shortly about national security. Our Wolf Blitzer is here, as well as our senior White House correspondent, Ed Henry. Ed, you usually travel with the president, and you said you got word for everyone to come back and get to work because there is going to be a major announcement.
That's right, Don. Basically, the press corps had been told President not going to be doing anything else for the rest of the day. He'd been up late last night at the White House Correspondents Association dinner, played some golf early this morning with some staffers, and then basically was taking the rest of the day off. Just over an hour ago, the press corps was called back to the White House and said the president's making some sort of a statement as early as 10:30 p.m. Eastern time. As Wolf said, that's obviously slipped now. All kinds of speculation is obviously flying around. We're trying to be as careful and cautious as possible. But one senior administration official told me, as Wolf has reported as well, that it is national security related. This official said, I can't go any further, but just come in. Basically, come into the office. You're going to want to be here for the president's statement. They are trying to underline that this is going to be an extremely dramatic statement.
Yeah, and Ed, I do have to say it's been a very busy week for the president. He's been down south twice to visit the storm victims, and also Gabrielle Giffords and her husband, who was supposed to lead the Endeavour mission into space, but it was delayed. And as you said, and as Wolf Blitzer has pointed out so keenly here, one would think, people have been speculating about this, you might draw some conclusion to the airstrikes yesterday in Libya that killed Muammar Gaddafi's son and his 3 grandchildren, but we can't speculate about that now, can we, Ed?
No, we can't. I mean, Wolf is reporting that he has, from at least one official, that it is not Libya-related, this particular statement. But you're right to underscore that there is a lot happening around the world right now. And while we talk a lot about the economy and all these important domestic issues, there are a lot of critical national security issues that are intensifying all around the world, particularly in the Mideast and North Africa, but beyond just Libya. And this president has to stay on top of it around the clock, literally now almost at 11 p.m. Eastern time here on a Sunday evening time.
Yeah, it's 10:41 Eastern time here in the United States, Ed. Our Wolf Blitzer is working his sources. He's also here with us in Washington as well, and we are looking at the monitors here.
Let me interrupt
for a moment. Go ahead, Wolf.
I'm told now is slipping a little bit further. The statement is going to be made closer to 10:50 p.m. Eastern in about 9 minutes or so from now, as opposed to 10:45, probably closer to 10:50 p.m. I'm also told it's in part designed because the White House and the president, they are informing others, key people here in Washington and indeed around the world in advance about what's going on. So they're letting it slip a little bit, but I'm guessing within the next 8 or 9 minutes, the president will address the nation from the East Room of the White House and let us know precisely what has happened, and we'll hear it from the president directly.
Yeah, and you said, Wolf, that because of this, because of the importance of what the president is going to announce, that they want to have everything in order.
Yes, this is something, and without sharing what I suspect, and I say I suspect because I don't know for 100%, but what I suspect is going to announce. This is something that's been in the works for obviously a long, long time. And it's something that the American people and indeed the world will want to hear directly from the President of the United States. So I don't want to speculate too much about what probably the President is getting ready to announce, but it's a very, very important development right now. And it's something that will generate a lot of reaction, understandably so.
And Wolf, I know you're working your sources. I'm sure your BlackBerry is going crazy there, so we're going to let you work your sources for a little bit, and I'm going to bring Ed Henry back in for a moment. So Ed, again, usually travels. He's part of the White House press corps, travels with the president, and he is getting information as well. If you listen to our Wolf Blitzer, and then you sort of read between the lines and you see the emails of what they're saying, national security related, you know, at 10:30 on a Sunday night in Washington, the president going to the East Room. He's not going to the press briefing room. It's not going to be someone giving a statement for him. But Ed, before that, I want to bring in CNN's John King. He's the host of JKUSA. John King, what do you know?
Don, CNN is told by several sources now that the President of the United States will announce in just moments that the United States has the body of Osama bin Laden, that Osama bin Laden has been killed, and that the United States is convinced that it has the body of Osama bin Laden, the mastermind of 9/11, the architect of al-Qaeda. We don't know the details. We don't know how this came about, but we are told now by several sources, administration sources and congressional sources, that the administration is now telling senior members of Congress and telling others that it believes it now has, it is convinced it now has the body of Osama bin Laden. He has been killed. We don't know the details of how that happened, but that is the dramatic announcement the president will make. And Don, just think of what this means.
Yeah.
Almost 10 years since the 9/11 attacks. More than that, since Osama bin Laden has been the head of al-Qaeda. The president of the United States is to walk into the briefing room on a Sunday night and tell the nation that after all this waiting, all this heartache, all this search, all this failure, that the United States government is now convinced that it has the body of Osama bin Laden, and Osama bin Laden is dead almost 10 years after the 9/11 attack. And Wolf Blitzer, we covered the White House for a long time together. You know just what this means. You know what a figure Osama bin Laden has become, a nefarious figure around the world, not just the United States. The President of the United States, Barack Obama, about to walk into the United States briefing room and say that the United States is now certain Osama bin Laden has been killed, and his body has been identified.
And I must say, John, that the top officials of the White House are now briefing the top leadership of the House and the Senate, the Intelligence Committee members and others on precisely what has happened, how this unfolded. We'll get all the specifics from the president probably in the next 5 or 10 minutes or so. Maybe within 5 minutes, we'll hear directly from the president. Bin Laden is dead. The United States has the body. All of that. We've suspected that for the past hour or so, but we want it to be very, very precise. This is something, as John King and as everybody else knows, something the U.S. has been trying to do for almost 10 years. We're approaching the 10th anniversary of 9/11. It's been a huge, huge operation. They were close in the first few months after 9/11 in Tora Bora, some other places in Afghanistan, maybe in Pakistan, but now it has finally happened. All of that hard work finally has happened. Bin Laden is dead. We will find out who else is dead from the President of the United States when he addresses the nation. John, all of our viewers here in the United States, and we're being simulcast on CNN International around the world, this is one of those moments that everyone will always remember where they were when they heard that bin Laden is dead.
And Wolf, if you're in the United States, you remember where you were when 9/11 took place. You remember where you were when you first heard the name Osama bin Laden. For many Americans and many around the world, it was before 9/11, but he became the household name, the face of terrorism, the face of global terrorism, the face of al-Qaeda on 9/11. We are approaching the 10-year anniversary, and the United States so many times has said it is close to Osama bin Laden. Tora Bora so many times has said it has lost the precise location of Osama bin Laden. So many times has tried to say it's not about Osama bin Laden. It is about disintegrating, dismantling, splintering the al-Qaeda network. But of course it has always been about Osama bin Laden because of his personal role in the largest, most devastating terrorist attack against the United States of America in its history. And tonight, Barack Obama, the President of the United States, will walk into the White House briefing room and deliver a statement that, of course, George W. Bush would have loved to have delivered during his presidency because he was the president on 9/11, that the United States has now confirmed the death of Osama bin Laden. What does that mean? Does that mean al-Qaeda disappears? Of course it does not. Al-Qaeda has become a very different, a very splintered, a very fractured organization. You can find pieces of it in Yemen, pieces of it in Somalia, pieces of it still in Afghanistan and in Pakistan, pieces of it around the world. But Osama bin Laden has been the singular face of global terrorism and anti-American terrorism for 10 years now plus, Wolf. And for a president of the United States to walk into the White House briefing room, and you know the level of confirmation they would require for the president of the United States to walk in and tell the American people and to tell the world that Osama bin Laden is dead and the United States has confirmed that. That is a huge development, a hugely significant development. It does not erase al-Qaeda from the face of the earth, but it does erase, when the president makes that announcement, from the face of the earth, the singular face. Ask the people of New York City, ask the people who lost lives at the Pentagon. This has been the announcement they have been waiting for nearly 10 long years, Wolf.
And let me be precise, that it's not just enough for the President of the United States to guess or for his top intelligence officials to tell him that bin Laden is dead. They actually needed the body. They needed to do a DNA sample to make sure that the person that they suspected had been killed, bin Laden, was in fact bin Laden. They had DNA evidence of bin Laden. They had been waiting for many, many years because this was a deliberate effort to go out and capture or kill bin Laden, and they wanted to make sure 100% that if they in fact suspected that bin Laden was killed one way or another, directly through a precision-guided missile, through a Predator drone, or whatever method he was killed, they wanted to make sure that it was in fact bin Laden. It wasn't somebody else. So they needed the body. They needed to do the DNA evidence. They had DNA from bin Laden, enough DNA, and obviously the physical resemblance to to bin Laden and the person who was killed, to convince the President of the United States on this Sunday night, May 1st, 2011, the President of the United States would interrupt everyone's evening here on the East Coast, throughout the United States, indeed throughout the world, go on national television and alert all of us to this very, very historic and dramatic development. It's almost 10:50. The latest information I was getting from my sources is it would probably slip till around 10:50, but it's obviously slipping a little bit further. John, because you and I understand the way Washington works, the President has to alert key members of Congress before he alerts everyone else. And some key members of Congress are alerting their staffs. Word is getting out. It has now gotten out rather thoroughly. Indeed, we're sharing it over the past several minutes with our viewers in the United States and around the world that bin Laden is dead. And I don't think we can overemphasize how significant this is. I'll be listening, as you will, and so many others. What about Ayman al-Zawahiri, the #2 al-Qaeda leader? Was he with bin Laden? Is he still alive? What happens to him? We might get more of those details, not just from the President, but in subsequent briefings from top national security officials at the White House. It's one of those moments. And I remember a few years ago, it wasn't that long ago, John, you and I were covering when they announced that Saddam Hussein had been captured. He was later executed following a trial. But it's one of those moments that we will always remember. John?
And Wolf, just go back and think of the sentence you just spoke. Bin Laden is dead. Bin Laden is dead. To the American people who have seen him as the face of global terrorism, the face of anti-American terrorism for the last decade or more, the sentence bin Laden is dead speaks magnitudes. George W. Bush said, dead or alive. Remember those days? George W. Bush said, dead or alive, we will get him. There was the effort to bring Osama bin Laden to justice. There were the effort, the futile effort, the failed effort in Tora Bora. And for the last 10 years, we have asked our intelligence sources off and on, what's the latest? Have you heard any chatter? Do you know where he is? Is he in Waziristan? Is he in a cave somewhere? Is he in Afghanistan or Pakistan? Somewhere in the Neverland, or the ungovernable Neverland of that? Is he still in charge of al-Qaeda? And you ask such important questions. Where is al-Zawahiri? How will al-Qaeda survive after this? But he is the central leader. He has been the central unifying dramatic figure of al-Qaeda for more than the last decade. And so this is a signature achievement. And the President of the United States would not walk into the White House briefing room late on a Sunday night to say bin Laden is dead unless the White House was absolutely certain that bin Laden is dead. We don't know the next chapter of al-Qaeda. We don't know. But we do know tonight that a signature chapter of the terrorism movement that has devastated the United States, whether we're talking about Kenya, whether we're talking about the USS Cole, whether we're talking about the horrible 9/11, I remember that day very sadly fleeing the White House and watching what happened to Washington and watching what happened to the United States of America on that day. We are closing a page, a chapter of that moment tonight when the President walks in the briefing room moments from now and says bin Laden is dead. Just imagine the magnitude of that sentence. Osama bin Laden.
And here's something else, John, that we have to appreciate what follows. Because bin Laden, to most of the world, is a terrorist, a thug, a killer responsible for 9/11 and several other major terrorist attacks, not only against Americans, but against others, whether in Europe or in Africa, in the Middle East, other parts of the world, in Asia as well. So most of the world will be thrilled, but there will be some, including al-Qaeda supporters, al-Qaeda affiliates, who will not be happy about this, and no doubt are already plotting revenge. To them, bin Laden is a hero, and as a result, the U.S. National Security Team, indeed security teams around the world, they have to be prepared right now for retaliation. If this were one of those moments where the threat level could be intensified, it probably would be intensified, at least in the short term right now, gearing up for some immediate terrorist response from bin Laden supporters. It's something that the U.S. intelligence community, the national security community, the military community in Afghanistan, in Iraq, in all over the world, everyone has to be sensitive to that right now. And I assume the president will make that point when he addresses the nation only moments from now. And just to recap for viewers who are just tuning in to CNN and CNN International right now, this is what we can confirm. The President of the United States, moments from now, will be in the East Room of the White House. He will address the nation and the world and announce officially that bin Laden is dead. He will say the United States has the body of bin Laden and has confirmed that it is, in fact, Osama bin Laden. Nearly 10 years after 9/11, he not only was killed, but it's been confirmed that the body that was killed is, in fact, bin Laden's body. I don't know who else was killed in the process. We don't know the details of how this happened, but we do know that the president, on a late Sunday evening, going into the East Room of the White House to make this announcement, would not do this unless the U.S. intelligence community and others were 100% convinced. We know that Leon Panetta, the Central Intelligence Agency director, the CIA director, who is about to become, assuming he's confirmed by the Senate, the Defense Secretary, we know Panetta has already been calling key members of Congress and giving them the word, the official word, that bin Laden is dead. Once again, the president momentarily will be making this statement. We will stay with this. We're not going anywhere. This is one of those moments in history all of us will always, always remember. John, as we assess what's going on, give us a little bit more perspective on what we're about to hear.
Well, Wolf, consider the moment. And again, I'm going to say it over and over again for people watching at home. Imagine since 9/11, maybe since before then, if you remember the USS Cole, if you remember the attacks on the embassy in Kenya and Tanzania, Osama bin Laden is dead. That in and of itself is such a signature statement, such an amazing chapter in the history of our recent history. But then consider the moment. Consider the moment. We are near 10 years to the anniversary of 9/11. Look what has been happening. So many people have said that it is a devastating blow to al-Qaeda to have a pro-democracy movement in Egypt, a pro-democracy movement in Tunisia, the government of Syria under severe stress cracking down on its people in a bloody, brutal, horrible way. In Libya tonight, one of Muammar Gaddafi's sons killed just yesterday in U.S. airstrikes. The question of what will happen in that country. All across the Arab world, all across the Middle East and North Africa, there is dramatic change. At issue in that change is not the United States of America, is not per se the government of Saudi Arabia. All the rallying cries of Osama bin Laden are not the big issues. in the dramatic change that is happening across the Arab world. So you have now, on this night, Wolf, with all this change playing out, in more than 20 Arab nations have had some form of political demonstration, some form of unrest in the past 2 or 3 months. And in the middle of that now, headline around the world, tomorrow morning when everybody wakes up on Monday, it's already Monday morning in the Middle East, is Osama bin Laden is dead. At a time of amazing foment and amazing change in the Middle East, to have this signature face of anti-American, anti-Western, anti-Saudi hatred killed, we can't understand. We do know what it will mean to the people in the United States. We do know what it will mean to the people who lost, the 3,000 plus who lost their lives on 9/11. We do perhaps have some understanding of what it will mean to them. What will it mean at a time when the most volatile region of the world is undergoing this amazing Arab Spring, this amazing sense of change that is more about empowering people, is about using the internet, using any means people can have in Syria and Libya and elsewhere to speak their voice, to ask for change. What will it mean? We don't know. But that it happens at this moment, I think, magnifies its significance exponentially.
It will send a rocket around the world to so many elements, John, as they watch what's going on, because this has been a determined U.S. effort for nearly 10 years to capture or kill bin Laden. We don't know the details other than we now believe he was killed in Afghanistan. There had been widespread speculation he and Ayman al-Zawahiri may be hiding out in Pakistan. We're told that the body, at least, has been recovered, and it is in Afghanistan right now, and they did the full analysis to make sure this, in fact, is bin Laden. Gloria Borger is watching all of this. Gloria, you know, as we hear what's going on, and as people around the country, indeed around the world, hear that bin Laden is dead, they're beginning to process the enormous historic moment right now, and I want you to weigh in.
Well, I think it is enormous, and as John was saying, every day since 9/11, in one form or another, people have been asking, why don't we get Osama bin Laden? Where is Osama bin Laden? I think this is a process that has gone on in the previous administration and continued into this administration. I'm very curious as to how this occurred. Was this a drone, for example? We know that Predator drones are being used so much more frequently, particularly in this administration. And in speaking with some people at the White House through my BlackBerry tonight, it was very clear to me that a very serious announcement was about to be made. I got one email from a senior advisor at the White House which had 3 words, which was "go to work." So it's very clear that the enormity, that this is an enormous story, and the White House, not only in trying to confirm everything about this process and try and tell the American people about it, but also needs to have exactly the right pitch and tone in their statement, because, as John pointed out, they're not just speaking to Americans, where the reaction will be obvious, but they're speaking around the world, particularly to the Arab world. So I think that it's got to be very carefully worded. And this is something that we should all know. It's a search that's been going on since 9/11.
Our national security contributor, Fran Townsend, is on the phone. Fran was a former Homeland Security advisor to President Bush. During the Bush administration, immediately after 9/11, Fran, for years that followed, this was the goal: capture or kill bin Laden, dead or alive, in the words of the former president of the United States. It has now happened, Fran. Bin Laden is dead. It has occurred during the Obama administration. We're awaiting to hear from the president himself all the details he wants to share with the American people, indeed with the world. His aides probably will share more details. But I'm sure when you heard the confirmation that we got that bin Laden is dead, you must have been I can only imagine so thrilled, given the enormous work you and the Bush administration tried to do to kill bin Laden.
Well, Wolf, look, it really doesn't matter during what administration. It's an enormous moment for the country. Yes, it will be an enormous moment for this president, but really, Wolf, this goes beyond the usual politics of Washington. It's a tremendous achievement, and it's one of those things. We'll see what the president says. We'll see what we find out about the details. But this is one of those things that takes all the time and all the people over, as you say, 10 years to get to this moment.
I'm now told by a White House official, by the way, it's going to slip a little bit further, the president's statement, probably closer to 11:10 p.m. or even 11:15 p.m. Eastern. They're working on the final statement. They're making sure that all of the various contacts have been made. So we're now speculating maybe another 10 or 15 minutes from now, we'll hear directly from the president in the East Room of the White House. The network pool cameras are there. They are ready to go. The president will be ready to go shortly. He will formally make the dramatic announcement that Osama bin Laden is dead, confirmed dead. The U.S. has the body. That's the picture from the East Room of the White House. You'll see the president announce. We just lost that picture, but we will regain that picture. The president will walk in up to that podium and make the announcement and go into some detail, giving all of us some perspective on how this occurred, when it occurred, what it means. John, I'm also being told that as a precaution, a prudent precaution, U.S. military, national security, intelligence officials are taking steps right now in case bin Laden or al-Qaeda supporters plot or plan some sort of immediate retaliation.
You would expect that based on the playbook since 9/11, and you would expect that based on the significance, the monumental significance of this announcement. Osama bin Laden is dead. The president is moments away from delivering that address to the American people. We're told he's making phone calls. Also, his senior staff is making phone calls not only to key members of the United States Congress and the key members of the United States national security apparatus, but also to key leaders around the world as well. When the president makes that statement, yes, U.S. military installations, U.S. diplomatic installations, other global installations have been placed on an elevated state of alert just in case there is a backlash. Wolf, we are also told, and I'm told, that Osama bin Laden was killed based on actionable U.S. intelligence by a U.S. asset. I've been unable to confirm exactly what that means. Normally, by a U.S. asset means that that's some sort of a drone or an unmanned predator operation around the world. I do not have direct confirmation of the specific military instrument yet, but I am told by two very good sources, one in the administration, one someone in Congress who has been briefed, that Osama bin Laden, the president will announce, has been killed. And these sources tell us has been killed based on actionable U.S. intelligence, which Fran Townsend and others can tell you is detailed U.S. intelligence that reaches the threshold of taking the extraordinary step of then authorizing a U.S. military strike or a CIA drone, some of that effect, a predator drone strike against a location. Always a risk of civilian casualties, civilian fatalities in such a case, so the actionable intelligence has to be of crystal clarity to do that. I'm told that actionable U.S. intelligence led to this strike that, in the end, the president will announce just moments from now, led to the death of Osama bin Laden, and the United States will say it has confirmed that it is indeed Osama bin Laden, the mastermind of 9/11.
And our senior White House correspondent, Ed Henry, John, is getting more details now. What else are you getting, Ed?
Perfectly on what John was just saying about a U.S. asset being used there. Can you not hear me, Wolf?
Yeah, I hear you now. Go ahead.
Can you hear me, Wolf? Okay, now, following on what John said about a U.S. military asset being involved here, I'm now told by a senior U.S. official telling CNN that Osama bin Laden was killed by a U.S. military asset, as John said, but specifically new information in a mansion, pardon me, outside Islamabad, Pakistan, along with other family members. So other members of bin Laden's family were with him in this mansion outside Islamabad when he was killed. Significant, of course, because we've suspected for years there's been intelligence suggesting that bin Laden was moving from cave to cave, was in hiding. This suggests perhaps he may have been hiding, obviously, but he was somewhere more out in the open than in a cave somewhere, number one. Number two, following on what you're talking about, the threats, I'm told by a senior Republican official that early this morning, military bases around the world, U.S. military bases, were told to go to a much higher threat level because of a viable threat. Obviously, once the U.S. knew that bin Laden was dead, they thought that the reaction, once that spread around the Mideast, could result in attacks against U.S. military bases. Our colleague Barbara Starr reporting as well that U.S. defense assets worldwide were escalated to Bravo force protection, extremely high levels to prepare for the president's announcement here, Wolf.
All right, so this is significant that bin Laden was killed in a mansion outside of Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan, not in some sort of tribal remote areas along the border with Afghanistan, but near Islamabad in Pakistan. We are told, we believe bin Laden's body has now been moved to Afghanistan, but we're not 100% sure of that. But he was killed in a mansion outside of the Pakistani capital of Islamabad. That it sounds to me like a CIA operation. When they speak of assets, that doesn't necessarily mean military forces or anything like that. It could be a local CIA asset who went out and killed him. But we're going to get all those details pretty soon. Nick Robertson is joining us from the United Kingdom right now. Nick, you were in Afghanistan on 9/11 almost 10 years ago, and the world is now only beginning to learn that the United States, in some sort of coordinated operation, whether with the assistance of others or not, the United States has confirmed that bin Laden is dead. Go ahead and weigh in.
If it proves, as we are beginning to understand, that his killing has taken place in Pakistan, that he's been hiding in Pakistan, close to the capital of Pakistan, Islamabad, this is also going to have is going to make our relations with Pakistan even more frayed and even more difficult. It would not be difficult to imagine either that there would be some sort of protest and backlash on the streets there of Islamabad, but this has been exactly the concern of Western officials, that bin Laden has effectively been hiding in plain sight, if you will, that he has been across the border inside Pakistan, that he has been hiding not in the remote border areas, but close to one of these major cities. And if indeed it is true that it is Islamabad, then this is going to strain U.S., Pakistani, European relations. It's also going to put a huge strain on the government of Pakistan. This has been one of the most difficult and thorniest of issues for them, to deal with the fact what happens if bin Laden is arrested or killed on their soil, because it's going to immediately show that he has been hiding there, that despite their claims that they have been trying their best to capture him, that there are holes in their intelligence operations that they've been unaware of, and that he has indeed been able to sort of duck out of sight there. The immediate implications for al-Qaeda worldwide, it is unlikely to kill off al-Qaeda, but it is going to have a huge psychological impact on members of the organization. It is also very likely that we're going to hear members of the organization on the internet saying that they don't believe this. So very likely the United States, President Obama, are going to have to go quite some distance to prove and to show to these al-Qaeda adherents that they have in fact killed Osama bin Laden. That's very much what I think part of what we can expect from President Obama when he does speak, because of course al-Qaeda members are going to say that this is not true, that this is part of Western propaganda, and they won't believe it until they see some evidence. And I think that's what we will be looking and hearing shortly, Wolf.
Stand by for a moment. Our congressional producer, Deirdre Walsh, is reporting now that Vice President Joe Biden has phoned the number 2 Republican in the House of Representatives, Eric Cantor, to inform him that bin Laden is dead, that bin Laden has been killed. Ed Henry's over at the White House. I'm getting emails from around the world right now and tweets, and people are cheering, they're applauding. You're getting some reaction from outside the White House right now.
Very late on a Sunday evening. There's maybe 30, 40 tourists. As you know, it's sort of the spring break season. A lot of tourists here in Washington right now. 30 seconds ago, they were chanting USA, USA. They're taking pictures outside the White House. They're chanting. You can hear a little bit of applause, etc. I'll try to let that play out. But they were just chanting USA, USA. And I've got a statement from Carrie Lamack. She is one of the very famous, unfortunately and tragically, she's so outspoken. After her mother was killed on 9/11, she became one of the biggest advocates for the families of the victims. She gave me a very quick statement saying she cannot express how this feels to my family. Relief is one word. We hope we can now focus on all that madman took, namely nearly 3,000 plus innocent victims. You hear now, I think, USA, USA again behind me. Khalil Abdullah, our photojournalist, is trying to pan over there. It's very dark here, but I'm sure you can hear it.
Yeah, we can hear it. We can hear it. Let's just listen to see if we can hear it.
Well, I think they've stopped. They're going in and out. But in any event, this is just spontaneous. They appear to be tourists, just here. They're outside the White House taking pictures. They feel very proud about this moment in American and world history, obviously, Wolf.
Yeah, and we're already getting reaction from family members, Ed, of those who were killed on 9/11 in New York City, at the Pentagon in Pennsylvania. And the family reactions, obviously, are going to be an enormously important part of this story. The confirmation now that Osama bin Laden has been killed at a mansion outside of Islamabad, the capital of Pakistan, almost hiding in plain sight, if you will. There had been all sorts of speculation in recent years. He was in some remote tribal area of a mountainous area of Pakistan along the border with Afghanistan, an area hard to get to, an area that was almost impossible to find. But if, in fact, these reports, and we believe they are true, that he was killed in a mansion outside the Pakistani capital of Islamabad, which is where so much of the activity, so much of the world was focusing their attention on other areas. If, in fact, he was killed at a mansion outside of Islamabad, that would just be a huge, huge part of this story. John King is getting more information for us as well. What else are you picking up, John?
Wolf, I would just want to reiterate, I'm told it was a United States asset that killed Osama bin Laden based on actionable U.S. intelligence. The President of the United States will announce that just moments from now. As you noted, the statement has been delayed several times, in part because the administration is trying to notify not only key members of the United States Congress, other key members of the national security apparatus, also trying to notify world leaders and trying to make certain that U.S. diplomatic and military operations around the world, and this was put in place hours ago, well before we have been told of this information. It has been spread around the system, if you will, to go on a higher state of alert, just in case there is some sort of retaliatory action by either those directly involved in al-Qaeda or sympathizers of Osama bin Laden. So everything is being put on a heightened state of alert. But just a couple of months shy of the 10th anniversary of 9/11, a president of the United States is going to walk in to a White House announcement tonight and say Osama bin Laden is dead. There are big questions the White House is trying to answer tonight. That is, what is the long-term effect on the operations of al-Qaeda? You have cut off, if you will, the head, the organizational chief of al-Qaeda, but we do know in the last 10 years, Wolf, and we've covered this story together, al-Qaeda has splintered in many ways. Somalia, Yemen, other places around the world, still a bit in Afghanistan, still significantly in Pakistan. So there are counterterrorism questions that have to be answered in the days and weeks and months that follow. But the significance of this moment is quite stunning, that the President of the United States, it happens to be President Barack Obama, but that a President of the United States will walk in and say, based on intelligence, the United States launched a strike that has now confirmed the killing of Osama bin Laden, the head of al-Qaeda, the mastermind of 9/11, the mastermind of so many other terrorist attacks against the United States and other key Western and U.S. allies around the world over the last 10 to 15 years. It is of enormous, enormous significance. And that it happens, Wolf, at such a volatile and, for the most part, a lot of question marks, but for the most part, inspirational moment when you look at the Middle East and North Africa, a region you know so well from covering it, and we've done it together over the last decade and more, that it happens at this moment, that Osama bin Laden is dead. I think we would be silly not to understand the potential, the magnification of the moment. It is such a huge moment anyway. But that it happens now, in the middle of all this dramatic change in the Middle East and North Africa, throughout the Arab world, it is hard. And you have more questions than answers. We have, as we always do in such huge breaking news, more questions than answers. But wow, it is such a monumental, consequential moment.
It's a huge, huge development, an historic development. Gloria Borger is working her sources as well. What else are you picking up, Gloria?
Wolf, I have one Senate source which says, and you've been talking about, that this was in Pakistan and that it was a human operation, not a drone. We've been talking about the fact that we've been using drones to target high-value targets, and so my inclination was to think that this might have been a drone, but I was told a human operation, so we'll have to learn a little bit more about how that was conceived and how that was carried out. It's very clear then that we had some kind of a lead, and we're tracking Osama bin Laden, who, after all, seemed not to have been in a cave. Another question I have, Wolf, on a more philosophical level, is that we'll be talking about what this does to America's prestige around the world. One of my sources was emailing me and say, what does it now say about our ability as a country to project power? Now that we've gotten bin Laden, and now that we know that it was a human operation.
And, you know, what's amazing, Gloria, is, you know, for those of us who have been to Islamabad, which is a modern capital city of Pakistan, that bin Laden was hiding at a mansion there, not in some remote tribal area where it's hard to get to, surrounded by supporters, but in Islamabad. I know Afghani officials are already emailing me saying, we told you he wasn't in Afghanistan. We had searched and searched in Afghanistan. Now they're sort of saying, you know what? We always suspected he was in Pakistan. Pakistani officials have always said, we have no evidence he's in Pakistan. If you give us actionable intelligence, we'll help you find him in Pakistan. We don't know at this point. We suspect, Gloria, this was a CIA operation. We don't know if there was assistance from elements of Pakistan's intelligence service or not, who gave the U.S. the initial tips where bin Laden might be hiding out with his family. All of those details remain to be answered, but it will have a dramatic spillover effect on U.S. relations with Afghanistan, with Pakistan, and what happens now. And especially, these are pictures, by the way, outside the White House right now. You can see people gathering with the American flag. Ed Henry just saying they were just chanting USA, USA. These images that we're seeing outside the the northwest gate of the White House on Pennsylvania Avenue, we'll be seeing all over the world. Let's listen in for a moment. And there it is. You just heard they're singing the Star-Spangled Banner. Tourists, others, just gathering outside the White House here in Washington, D.C. We're standing by to hear from the President of the United States. He's finishing up final phone calls, finishing up final remarks. Originally, the White House said he would be speaking, addressing the nation and the world at 10:30 p.m. Eastern. It's now 11:20 p.m. Eastern. We're told very soon the President will go into the East Room and speak and tell the world officially that bin Laden is dead. Nick Payton-Walsh is our correspondent in Kabul, Afghanistan, right now. What are you learning over there, Nick?
They're involved in that operation.
And Nick Payton-Walsh in Kabul, can you hear me?
I can hear you, Wolf. Hi.
All right, go ahead and tell us what you're learning in Kabul. It's now early morning in Kabul.
Absolutely. I've just spoken to a senior Pakistani intelligence official who was saying very little, but one key thing, he is confirming the death of bin Laden. He is saying it is the result of a highly sensitive, quote, intelligence operation that led to bin Laden's death. And very importantly, he is also saying that Pakistani intelligence operatives were involved in this operation. Now, you obviously can bear in mind that accusations of collusion that will come out now. It's emerged that Osama bin Laden was in Islamabad, if that turns out to be the case. But by the Pakistanis releasing this information and confirming the death, they're obviously wanting to show that they're an ally to the United States in the war on terror, and I think clearly also try and, I think, preempt any accusations of collusion. Wolf?
Indeed. If Pakistani intelligence, if the government of Pakistan were directly involved in helping the United States kill bin Laden. That would certainly, at least in the short term, dramatically improve U.S.-Pakistani relations, because if, in fact, Pakistan was not involved in this, and yet he was hiding in a mansion outside the Pakistani capital of Islamabad, that, on the other hand, would dramatically further disrupt relations between the U.S. and Pakistan. We don't know all the specific details, what role Pakistan's intelligence, Pakistan's military may have played in helping the United States find bin Laden, find where he was located at this mansion outside of Islamabad. But if, in fact, Pakistani intelligence was directly involved in helping the U.S., that would certainly strengthen the U.S.-Pakistani relationship in the short term. And let's not forget this significant point. It's not just since 9/11 that the U.S. and others have been going after bin Laden. It's many years earlier, in the early 90s, the first attack on the World Trade Center back in 1993, there has been a concerted effort to find bin Laden, to arrest bin Laden, to kill him if necessary. And we do know that after 9/11, then President George W. Bush signed specific executive orders authorizing the United States to go ahead and assassinate bin Laden if possible. He always said, if all of our viewers remember correctly, and they do, that bin Laden was wanted dead or alive. He approved orders to go ahead to the CIA and other members of the U.S. government. If they find bin Laden, it's okay to kill him if necessary, and that apparently has been what has happened just now. Chris Lawrence is our Pentagon correspondent. Chris, what are you picking up?
Hey, Wolf, just got done speaking with a defense official who said right now there has been no change to the security procedures at the bases there in Afghanistan. It was a point that you brought up earlier with John King about the fact that obviously there could be a counterpunch by al-Qaeda and its allies and its sympathizers to what has happened here now and what is about to be announced, in that they may try to strike back in retaliation for the death of Osama bin Laden. So again, no change right now in the security procedures in the bases in Afghanistan. And I think now, in just some of the conversations I had with defense officials, a lot of the attention has already started to turn and will be turning even more now to the man called Anwar al-Awlaki. You know, he is a U.S.-born radical cleric. He speaks English. He uses the internet. He uses social media to try to reach out and convert new followers. He's sort of the new breed. 10 years later, post bin Laden, he's using a lot of the current technology to recruit followers and inspire attacks. More of the attention than ever may now focus on him, Wolf.
Yeah, he's the head of al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, based in Yemen, an American-born cleric who obviously has a following out there. I'm also very curious, as I'm sure you are, Chris, about the #2 al-Qaeda leader, Ayman al-Zawahiri, the Egyptian physician who's been with bin Laden all of these years. There was always widespread speculation, is Ayman al-Zawahiri hiding out together with bin Laden, or are they separated, moved in different directions? We don't know the fate of Ayman al-Zawahiri right now, but presumably we'll get some more information on that from the President of the United States. He was supposed to address the nation almost an hour ago, 10:30 p.m. Eastern. It's now getting closer and closer to 11:30 p.m. Eastern. He's going to be going into the East Room of the White House fairly soon and speaking to all of us and telling us what's going on. He'll make it all official. He'll give us the perspective as only a president of the United States can give that perspective. He'll also look ahead. What does this mean for the United States right now? What does this mean for U.S. citizens? What does it mean for U.S. allies, U.S. friends throughout the world? Al-Qaeda has been a terrorist organization, not only attacking U.S. targets, but targets all over the world, whether in Europe, Africa, Asia, in the Middle East. Certainly, we've seen the death that's been wreaked by al-Qaeda over the years. John King is watching all of this. John, as I say, it's almost an hour since the president was supposed to speak, but as you and I know, having both covered the White House, the final draft of a critically important statement like this that will go down in history, probably one of the most important statements this president will make as president of the United States. They want to fine-tune it to make sure it is precisely what they want to say, no room for error whatsoever.
And Wolf, so often we use the term historic, and let's admit tonight we use it too often. Tonight, let's use it with a capital H. The President of the United States is going to walk into the East Room of the White House and announce to the American people and announce to the world that the United States has confirmed the killing and the death, and he is convinced of Osama bin Laden, who has become the face of global terrorism, who has become the face, enemy number one, if you will, of the United States of America, known most of all as the nefarious figure who orchestrated the 9/11 attacks, the singular, most deadly attack against the United States of America. Everybody who was alive on that day remembers where they were when the Twin Towers fell, when the Pentagon was attacked, when there was a fear that the White House or that the United States Capitol would be under attack, when the plane hit the field in Shanksville, Pennsylvania. And as we reflect on that moment, and as every American remembers their anger, their outrage at that moment, it's also worth remembering that is not the only scars Osama bin Laden has inflicted on the people of the United States and others around the world. It was November 1998. He was indicted in 1998 on 224 counts of murder for embassy bombings in Kenya and Tanzania. It was in 1999 he appeared for the first time on the FBI's most wanted list, 1999, well before September 11th, 2011. And on 2000, of course, in 2000, he was linked to the attack and bombing of the USS Cole in Yemen that killed 17 sailors and injured 39. So Osama bin Laden has singularly been the face of al-Qaeda, the face of the terrorism movement against the United States of America, Wolf. And you remember full well, George W. Bush said, dead or alive. George W. Bush said that getting bin Laden, bringing him to justice, was a singular focus of his administration, that the next president, his successor, and throw parties aside, doesn't matter Democrat, doesn't matter Republican, that a president of the United States could walk in to the East Room of the White House tonight and tell the American people and tell a global audience that Osama bin Laden is dead, that the United States has confirmed it has his body, is a signature moment for the country, for this president, and for the world. And yes, there are many, many questions as to what comes next. Can al-Qaeda regroup? Will it regroup? What will happen in the next 72, 100, 300 hours? Will there be attempts to lash out at U.S. or Western installations around the world by al-Qaeda supporters and sympathizers? That is a huge concern for the United States and for the global intelligence agencies tonight. It is one reason the president is taking his time delivering this speech. They want to make sure that everybody around the world is on alert. But remember, Wolf, the significance of this moment as the president prepares to tell this, not only to the people of the United States, but to a global audience, Osama bin Laden is dead.
And it's now, John, approaching 11:30 p.m. here on the East Coast. The president getting ready to go into the East Room of the White House and make this dramatic statement, an historic statement to the nation, indeed to the world. And there you see a live picture coming from the East Room. The president will be announced. He will walk there up to the podium and make his statement. It was supposed to be made an hour or so ago, but they're fine-tuning it. They're making sure that all the phone calls are made not only to key members of Congress, but to key world leaders, informing them in advance what precisely has happened. Our Gene Meserve, our Homeland Security correspondent, by the way, has just received a formal statement from Susan Collins, the ranking member of the Senate Homeland Security Committee. Susan Collins saying this, let me read it to our viewers. The director of the National Counterterrorism Center informed me tonight that Osama bin Laden was killed in a U.S. operation. This welcome news is a credit to our intelligence efforts and brings to justice the architect of the attacks on our country that killed nearly 3,000 people on September 11th, 2011. On the other part of the screen, you're seeing crowds that are gathering outside the north lawn of the White House on Pennsylvania Avenue. They are bringing American flags. We heard them singing the Star-Spangled Banner just a little while ago. Let's listen in to see if we can hear the chanting, the screaming, the excitement that's going on. This is being not only taking place here in Washington outside the White House, but I'm told from Twitter followers and others around the world, people are gathering to celebrate the death of Osama bin Laden, the architect of 9/11, who was killed at a mansion, we're told, outside of the Pakistani capital of Islamabad, and we're told also this was done with the cooperation, the assistance of Pakistani officials. We're not exactly sure whether they were military officials, intelligence officials, but Pakistan, some elements of the Pakistani government were helpful in killing bin Laden. We don't know, as I say, we don't know. We don't know if Ayman al-Zawahiri, the #2 al-Qaeda leader, was killed in this operation, if he was at that mansion at the same time. We'll get some more details. That's coming up. Now, not far from where you saw those crowds gathering at the White House, outside the north lawn of the White House, inside in the East Room, they're gearing up for the President of the United States. The network television pool cameras have been in place now for more than an hour, ready to go, and to broadcast the President's statement to all the American people, indeed, to the world. It's now past 11:30 p.m. on the East Coast, late Sunday night. And we know this occurred many hours ago, but they wanted to make sure this was, in fact, bin Laden. They wanted to do all the vetting, DNA evidence, if necessary, to make sure that the person who they thought was bin Laden was, in fact, bin Laden. And you see the crowds outside the White House and elsewhere. They're very, very excited. Ed Henry's our senior White House correspondent. Ed, this is tape that we had just a little while ago over at the White House. Actually, these are live pictures. We now have a live camera outside the White House. You can see the north portico of the White House right behind them. Ed, what else are you learning?
Well, so dramatic. When we first reported this, CNN was first reported this about a half hour ago, there were maybe 40 tourists out there. Right now, there are dozens of people from all directions. I can see them through the White House gates, literally running. People are running to the White House gates. You hear the chants of USA, USA. That crowd that started at about 40 people has now grown to hundreds. Pretty soon, I bet it's going to be thousands as they see these pictures. More and more people want to join. And also the social media is spreading the word. And I can tell you, Secret Service officers a few moments ago were literally running up the driveway behind me because they are now trying to make sure that they have this crowd in control. It's obviously a positive crowd, a happy crowd, but they were not expecting this late on a Sunday night. So they are now making sure that that fence at the White House is secure. No one hops over the fence, anything like that. Interesting as well, our producer, Shauna Shepard, was just over there, and she said people were telling her this is the best day ever in American history. There are lots of American flags, people cheering President Obama. One man was holding up a T-shirt that said, "Thank you, President Bush." In fact, I'm told by a Republican official who served in the Bush administration, they had a very elaborate plan about what to do on a night like this. They never got to do it. It's now going to be done under President Obama, Wolf.
And the president is going to be announced within a moment, within a few seconds, we're told now. He will go up to the podium at the White House. Take a look at this picture. Here's the East Room of the White House. The president is going to be announced. He will come in. He has a carefully prepared statement. The statement has been worked on now, we're told, for the last several hours. They've known about this for a long time over at the White House, but they've been waiting patiently to make sure that everything was ready to go. They've alerted members of Congress. They've alerted world leaders. And now the president will tell us officially bin Laden is dead.
Good evening. Tonight, I can report to the American people and to the world that the United States has conducted an operation that killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of al-Qaeda, and a terrorist who's responsible for the murder of thousands of innocent men, women, and children. It was nearly 10 years ago that a bright September day was darkened by the worst attack on the American people in our history. The images of 9/11 are seared into our national memory. Hijacked planes cutting through a cloudless September sky, the Twin Towers collapsing to the ground, black smoke billowing up from the Pentagon, the wreckage of Flight 93 in Shanksville, Pennsylvania, where the actions of heroic citizens saved even more heartbreak and destruction. And yet we know that the worst images are those that were unseen to the world. The empty seat at the dinner table, children who were forced to grow up without their mother or their father, parents who would never know the feeling of their child's embrace, nearly 3,000 citizens taken from us, leaving a gaping hole in our hearts. On September 11th, 2001, in our time of grief, the American people came together. We offered our neighbors a hand, and we offered the wounded our blood. We reaffirmed our ties to each other and our love of community and country. On that day, no matter where we came from, what God we prayed to, or what race or ethnicity we were united as one American family. We were also united in our resolve to protect our nation and to bring those who committed this vicious attack to justice. We quickly learned that the 9/11 attacks were carried out by Al-Qaeda, an organization headed by Osama bin Laden, which had openly declared war on the United States and was committed to killing innocents in our country and around the globe. And so we went to war against Al-Qaeda to protect our citizens, our friends, and our allies. Over the last 10 years, thanks to the tireless and heroic work of our military and our counterterrorism professionals, we've made great strides in that effort. We've disrupted terrorist attacks and strengthened our homeland defense. In Afghanistan, we removed the Taliban government, which had given bin Laden and Al-Qaeda safe haven and support. And around the globe, we worked with our friends and allies to capture or kill scores of Al-Qaeda terrorists, including several who were a part of the 9/11 plot. Yet, Osama bin Laden avoided capture and escaped across the Afghan border into Pakistan. Meanwhile, Al-Qaeda continued to operate from along that border and operate through its affiliates across the world. And so shortly after taking office, I directed Leon Panetta, the director of the CIA, to make the killing or capture of bin Laden the top priority of our war against Al-Qaeda, even as we continued our broader efforts to disrupt, dismantle, and defeat his network. Then, last August, after years of painstaking work by our intelligence community, I was briefed on a possible lead to bin Laden. It was far from certain, and it took many months to run this thread to ground. I met repeatedly with my national security team as we developed more information about the possibility that we had located bin Laden hiding within a compound deep inside Pakistan. And finally, last week, I determined that we had enough intelligence to take action and authorized an operation to get Osama bin Laden and bring him to justice. Today, at my direction, the United States launched a targeted operation against that compound in Abbottabad, Pakistan. A small team of Americans carried out the operation with extraordinary courage and capability. No Americans were harmed. They took care to avoid civilian casualties. After a firefight, they killed Osama bin Laden and took custody of his body. For over 2 decades, bin Laden has been Al-Qaeda's leader and symbol, and has continued to plot attacks against our country and our friends and allies. The death of bin Laden marks the most significant achievement to date in our nation's effort to defeat Al-Qaeda. Yet his death does not mark the end of our effort. There's no doubt that Al-Qaeda will continue to pursue attacks against us. We must, and we will, remain vigilant at home and abroad. As we do, we must also reaffirm that the United States is not and never will be at war with Islam. I've made clear, just as President Bush did shortly after 9/11, that our war is not against Islam. Bin Laden was not a Muslim leader. He was a mass murderer of Muslims. Indeed, Al-Qaeda has slaughtered scores of Muslims in many countries, including our own. So his demise should be welcomed by all who believe in peace and human dignity. Over the years, I've repeatedly made clear that we would take action within Pakistan if we knew where bin Laden was. That is what we've done. But it's important to note that our counterterrorism cooperation with Pakistan helped lead us to bin Laden and the compound where he was hiding. Indeed, bin Laden had declared war against Pakistan as well and ordered attacks against the Pakistani people. Tonight, I called President Zardari, and my team has also spoken with their Pakistani counterparts. They agree that this is a good and historic day for both of our nations. And going forward, it is essential that Pakistan continue to join us in the fight against Al-Qaeda and its affiliates. The American people did not choose this fight. It came to our shores and started with the senseless slaughter of our citizens. After nearly 10 years of service, struggle, and sacrifice, we know well the costs of war. These efforts weigh on me every time I, as Commander-in-Chief, have to sign a letter to a family that has lost a loved one, or look into the eyes of a service member who's been gravely wounded. So Americans understand the costs of war. Yet, as a country, we will never tolerate our security being threatened, nor stand idly by when our people have been killed. We will be relentless in defense of our citizens and our friends and allies. We will be true to the values that make us who we are. And on nights like this one, we can say to those families who have lost loved ones to al-Qaeda's terror, justice has been done. Tonight, we give thanks to the countless intelligence and counterterrorism professionals who've worked tirelessly to achieve this outcome. The American people do not see their work nor know their names, but tonight they feel the satisfaction of their work and the result of their pursuit of justice. We give thanks for the men who carried out this operation, for they exemplify the professionalism, patriotism, and unparalleled courage of those who serve our country. And they are part of a generation that has borne the heaviest share of the burden since that September day. Finally, let me say to the families who lost loved ones on 9/11 that we have never forgotten your loss, nor wavered in our commitment to see that we do whatever it takes to prevent another attack on our shores. And tonight, let us think back to the sense of unity that prevailed on 9/11. I know that it has at times frayed, yet today's achievement is a testament to the greatness of our country and the determination of the American people. The cause of securing our country is not complete, but tonight we are once again reminded that America can do whatever we set our mind to. That is the story of our history. Whether it's the pursuit of prosperity for our people or the struggle for equality for all our citizens, our commitment to stand up for our values abroad, and our sacrifices to make the world a safer place. Let us remember that we can do these things not just because of wealth or power, but because of who we are. One nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. May God bless you. And may God bless the United States of America.
President of the United States making the dramatic, historic announcement. It's all official now. Bin Laden is dead. The president describing in some detail, not all of the detail, but in some detail how the U.S. intelligence community got wind that bin Laden was hiding somewhere in Pakistan and that a team was assembled to go there and kill him, capture him or kill him. In this particular case, they killed him. The president saying they had cooperation from the Pakistani government. He thanked President Zardari of Pakistan for the assistance in this effort. They had the body, they retrieved the body, and they confirmed, in fact, it was bin Laden. I assume they had DNA evidence in addition to other obvious visual sightings of bin Laden. They wanted to make sure they had the right individual. Ed Henry is over at the White House, our senior White House correspondent. The president, he was to the point, and he understood fully what this announcement means, the cheering. I can even hear it now around the world, certainly where you are at the White House.
Wolf, this crowd behind me outside the White House gates, it was building literally as the president spoke. The president laid out some new details. First of all, he confirmed what we reported here first, which is that Osama bin Laden was killed in Pakistan, not in Afghanistan. He said deep inside Pakistan, and gave us some new details, that it was last week that he authorized the U.S. operation, and that it was today that a U.S. team, he called it a small U.S. team, launched the operation today in Pakistan. He said that there was a firefight, that Osama bin Laden was killed. The U.S. took custody of his body, and in the words of the president, dramatically said, quote, justice has been done. I think it was also very interesting that the president sort of called on the nation to come together. He said, quote, let us think back to the unity after 9/11. He said, I know it's been frayed sometimes, but now is a moment to come together. And I can tell you, Wolf, there are a lot of people. It started with 30 or 40 people. There were 30 to 40 people. Now it's hundreds of them. Since we first reported it here from the lawn, hundreds out there now who are coming together to celebrate this moment in American history. It's been lighting up on social media, many of them students from George Washington University, as you know, just a few blocks away. There's also, I can see a lot of tourists out there. It's dark out here. It's getting very late. But, Wolf, this crowd is so excited. There are American flags being waved. They're chanting USA, USA. Others have been chanting, hey, hey, goodbye to bin Laden. Very angry at him, obviously, these many years later. But mostly very positive in chanting USA, USA, and chanting, singing as well, the national anthem, Wolf.
We're getting statements, Ed, from former presidents, former President George W. Bush. Let me read it to our viewers as we look at these pictures outside the north gate, the northwest gate of the White House on Pennsylvania Avenue. Earlier this evening, President Obama called to inform me that American forces killed Osama bin Laden, the leader of the al-Qaeda network that attacked America on September 11, 2001. I congratulated him and the men and women of our military and intelligence community who devoted their lives to this mission. They have our everlasting gratitude, President Bush continuing. This momentous achievement marks a victory for America, for people who seek peace around the world, and for all those who lost loved ones on September 11th, 2001. The fight against terror goes on. But tonight, America has sent an unmistakable message. No matter how long it takes, justice will be done. More statements coming in from former President Bill Clinton and others. Let me bring in John King, who's watching all of this unfold. John, as we continue to watch the crowds gathering outside the White House and indeed elsewhere around the country and indeed around the world, let's reflect a little bit on President Obama's words, precisely the extent of this operation that killed bin Laden.
Wolf, you see the crowd celebrating across from the White House in that park on 9/11. It was filled with White House staffers who were told to flee from the White House. That plane that landed in the field in Shanksville, many thought was directed at the White House or the United States Capitol. I was there when the Secret Service told everybody to run and get out of the building. You see a celebration tonight. The president spoke the words, justice has been done. For all the president said tonight, those 4 words, justice has been done, I think will echo around the country and around the world tonight. As Ed Henry noted, very significant, the president said there was an operation inside of Pakistan conducted by a U.S. team that involved a firefight. There will no doubt be questions about the coordination, the sensitivities. How did they pull this off within Pakistan? How closely was it coordinated? Were the Pakistanis fully involved, or did the United States decide to do this and essentially bring the Pakistanis in after? That will play out in the days and weeks ahead because of the sensitivities of that relationship, of which you are so well aware, and often the frustration and the tensions in that relationship. But tonight, the President of the United States saying, almost 10 years after 9/11, justice has been done. Osama bin Laden is dead. That is why you see that happening right there in Lafayette Park across the street from the White House. It is happening, no doubt, in homes and in public places across America tonight because Osama bin Laden was the singular face of global terrorism against the United States. There are a lot of questions. What comes next for al-Qaeda? What is left? Will it try to retaliate? Whether it's al-Qaeda in the Arabian Peninsula, whether it's al-Qaeda affiliates in Somalia or somewhere else in the world, will they try to retaliate? But tonight, Wolf, that celebration in Lafayette Park speaks volumes.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be celebrations in New York City, in Pennsylvania, around the country, and indeed around the world. The word is only beginning to get out right now. The president spoke for just under 10 minutes or so, and he explained why this is so significant. And it comes almost on the 10th anniversary of 9/11. David Gergen worked for 4 American presidents. He's watching all of this unfold. David, give me your thoughts.
Wolf, this is a momentous evening, a rare moment when all Americans can celebrate. I thought the president captured that well tonight, this moment of unity. Not since Adolf Hitler can I remember a single person who has been so hated by Americans as Osama bin Laden, the architect of an attack out of the blue on us. And Wolf, also, I think part of this elation tonight comes because we've had 10 long, frustrating years since we were attacked. You know, we've been drawn into 2 wars. Our way of life has changed here at home. We have to go through all this craziness in our airports, and we haven't had a victory until now. This is the first clear-cut victory, a night we can all celebrate and thank those troops, thank those intelligence officers, and yes, thank President Obama and thank President Bush. I think the leadership of this country delivered on this one, and there is reason. So often when we see crowds gather outside those White House gates, it's not in victory. It's usually in sadness or some scandal or something. Tonight, it's a victory for the United States, and this is a good moment to celebrate all of us.
Yeah, it's true that intelligence failures are always highly publicized. Intelligence successes are not necessarily always publicized because intelligence officials don't necessarily run out to alert the world that they did this or that. But in this particular case, a huge intelligence success for the Central Intelligence Agency, for Leon Panetta, the outgoing director of the CIA, and others who were involved in this operation. Fran Townsend's our Homeland Security contributor, worked for President Bush as the Homeland Security advisor. You're getting more information on some of the details. We're going to be fully briefed in the course of the next few hours on all the specific details of what happened, Fran. But what are you learning?
Well, Wolf, when the president says that there was a firefight and that U.S. operatives were involved in this firefight and none were hurt, what he's telling you is that Special Operations Forces obviously crossed the border from Afghanistan to Pakistan to conduct this operation. Very dangerous, Wolf. Would have required a tremendous amount of planning, including if any of those American operatives have been hurt, to get them out. And so it will be a very interesting story when they're able to tell us the additional details of just how this thing went down.
And, you know, it sort of reminds me of the operation that was not successful to get the American hostages out of Iran. You remember those helicopters going down. That didn't work out. That was a blunder. That was a failure. This is a huge, huge success, and I assume we'll get those details. Fran, a coordinated operation like this with the government of Pakistan, with President Zardari of Pakistan, that is very, very significant because, as you know, and many of our viewers know, there was a lot of U.S. suspicion that the Pakistanis, or at least elements in the ISI, the Pakistani intelligence service, were not necessarily helping the U.S. in the hunt for bin Laden.
That's right, Wolf, and it'll be very interesting to understand, when did President Zardari actually know this? Did he know? Was it coordinated with him before the operation happened? I'll tell you, Wolf, given the history of this relationship and the distrust that you talk about, it may in fact be that President Zardari and the Pakistani government were not informed until the operation was either underway or immediately after it was finished.
Fran, hold on for a second, because Kenny Specht is joining us right now, a New York City firefighter. This must be, Kenny, for you, for your fellow firefighters, an enormously powerful moment. Tell us how you're feeling.
Good evening, Wolf. As a New York City firefighter, first and foremost, I think I speak for all New York City firefighters when I give a heartfelt thanks to the members of the United States military who took on this very, very dangerous task. I think the most important news we've heard tonight, much more important than even the death of Osama bin Laden, is the fact that we lost no troops, no American soldiers in this very, very, very dangerous situation that they put themselves in harm's way to go and do the business of this country. I think that we're a blessed country tonight, Wolf. As a New York City firefighter who survived both September 11th and illness diagnosed for my time at September 11th, I'm proud to be an American tonight. I'm proud of our men and women in the service. I'm proud of the special operations, and I know that I speak for every member of the New York City Fire Department when I say that I hope to God he rots in hell.
I know that's how you feel. Kenny Specht is a New York City firefighter. Tell us where you were, Kenny, on 9/11.
Wolf, I got to the site of the Trade Center after both World Trade Center towers had collapsed, but before 7 World Trade Center had collapsed. So I actually witnessed the collapse of 7 World Trade Center, and I remained at the site until about 3 o'clock in the afternoon on September 12th. And I spent up until the end of November down at the site, and I was diagnosed with cancer in 2007, and I was retired, disability retired in 2008, and our fight our fight has never ended, Wolf, and I know the fight of this country has never ended, and I hope that every person in this country, I hope that tonight we start to put the past 10 years behind us. I hope tonight we start to again feel exactly what we felt 10 years ago, the bond of being an American. I hope that it comes back again. I hope that it's not forgotten. I know that our military is first and foremost in our mind. Tonight, they are first and foremost in our mind. If I could, I'd hold each and every one of them. I'm so proud of the work that they've done, and they have really brought close to a horrible chapter in this country's history.
Did you ever give up hope, Kenny, that the U.S. would kill bin Laden?
No, but I'd be lying to you, Wolf. I'd be lying to you if I thought about it every day. No, I didn't. I didn't give up hope. I mean, that's all we had. That's all we had. It's like anything else, though. It's just sometimes we think that when it's not spoken about anymore, we wonder really what's still being done. I mean, we're in a quagmire, for lack of a better term, in Afghanistan. I hope to God that tonight is one large step to maybe wrapping up operations in Afghanistan.
Kenny, I'm going to interrupt because I think I've lost contact with you, but I want you to stand by, Kenny, if you can. Stand by for a moment because Peter Bergen is joining us now, our national security contributor. Peter, you've actually sat down and interviewed Osama bin Laden back in the 1980s, if I'm correct. Tell us what you think. The President of the United States saying they found bin Laden, they had actionable intelligence, they sent a team in, they found him, there was a firefight, and they killed him. They got the body. They confirmed beyond a shadow of a doubt this was bin Laden.
Well, obviously, this is one of the great intelligence successes the United States has ever engaged in. I met bin Laden, Wolf, as you know, in 1997. He celebrated his 54th birthday on February 15th. He was not an old man. The hunt had gone very cold. People I talked to in the U.S. intelligence agencies for years used phrases like, the trail has gone cold, we have hypotheses but not actionable intelligence on bin Laden's location. Clearly that changed rather rapidly in the last several weeks. It's interesting to me that he was found in Abbottabad, which after all is a not insignificant Pakistani city.
How far from Islamabad is that?
It's not far at all.
Where are we talking, like a suburb almost?
No, not a suburb, but it's in the, it's relatively nearby. This is not in the Pakistani tribal regions.
It's not in a remote jungle, mountainous area. It's an area that's relatively close to the capital of Pakistan. Let's get a map up there and show our viewers what we're talking about, because the president specifically said bin Laden was found in this city. But go ahead. Have you been to this Abbottabad?
I haven't been to Abbottabad. Let's look at the map here. So
you see Islamabad there in the middle, and there's Abbottabad right there.
Right. Yeah, so, the informed hypotheses for a long time was that he was in the Pakistani tribal regions, which this area is not in, that he was in and around there. But interestingly, Wolf, if you go back and you look at the capture or kill of a lot of other senior members of al-Qaeda over time, many of them were, Rawalpindi was where Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the operational commander.
Karachi, for that matter.
Karachi was where Ramzi
These are major urban areas. They were hiding not in some remote area, but in a city.
Well, they were until about 2004. Then they moved into the tribal regions thinking that the cities were not safe. And then, of course, but, in terms of bin Laden, there hasn't been, really good information about him for so long.
And bin Laden is an unusual, he's a tall guy, much taller than most people in that part. So it's not as if he's someone who can just sort of blend into the countryside.
Well, he's one of the most recognizable people in history. Not only that, he's 6'4", very thin. He's recognizable relatively easily. It'll be interesting to see to what extent if somebody dropped a dime on him to pick up a cash reward. That's happened in the past. If somebody, if it was more about...
There was a, $25 million reward for his capture or death.
That worked for Khalid Sheikh Mohammed, the operational commander of 9/11. But in this case, it may have been anomalies about sort of too much movement in and out of this house.
Are you surprised that the president praised President Zardari of Pakistan for Pakistan's assistance, cooperation in the killing of bin Laden?
I'm not surprised, because this is the message that we should be giving and that we are giving, praising the civilian government of Pakistan, which is in charge nominally of the country, rather than praising the military. As you know, there's been 4 military dictatorships in Pakistan in the last 6.5 decades. That's not been good for the country overall. And so, you know, the administration very correctly, it's, at the end of the day, President Zardari is the head of state of the country, not the Pakistani military.
And President Zardari may have been